Still a video game. Well, yeah, this is a video game. Um, Had to end for a minute and do something. Guess I'll just be two separate little things. But I was talking about a story. Guess I'll just I don't know, not even talk about that. But I do have like a lot of stuff to talk about to begin with. I think I see these certain ways of being and the way that these things are. Um, I guess things you can make and things you can do. So, I don't know. It can be good to have a creative outlet, first and foremost, with anything. Say you're going through a lot, or you have some sort of like outside stressors, or excuse me. There's a there's a lot more to life than just like sitting around and being that way about it. To where there have been moments where I've sat on the couch and had that like the doomer moment where you sit down and you just like stare down at the ground and nothing is good and the sun is not out and everything's gray and that's sort of why people do this sort of thing where they need a certain creative aspect or like portion of their time dedicated to something different, like not stressing out about certain stuff or not being one of those people that's like that even. But yeah, no, I get that way for sure about certain stuff. Um, when it's like me alone doing something, or say I'm working or something like that. I do have the tendency to be that way, where I'll just be so lonely and not able to sort of self-actualize like what's important. And it's a skill too. It's a skill to be able to do that, to detach and to see in the moment that things may be bad now, but they're oftentimes can get better, and that's part of it. But also just dealing with a lot of mental issues too. A lot of people have depression. A lot of people have certain parts about themselves that they don't share with others very often, and it's a pressing topic in the world, even to be able to sit down and just be a part of a demographic, be relatively educated, and have skills in the workforce, and also be going through these certain things. Statistically, it's very it's common until it's not common. I guess you can say until it's rare. Like doing something like this is like unboxing. Like you just got a special loot box or whatever, and it's a rare special item, and I don't know. That's what you have to see every moment as. That's gamer logic for sure. It's like say, oh, I can't believe you got that. Nice, nice. But that's also like how the gold rush was. So I don't even know. They're just paying for gold, and then if you had gold in the pan, you actually you got rich, and your family at the time was so well off, and huge difference between the person who panned gold and the person at the river who never found anything. And that's why the world, essentially is like capitalistic fortune finding. And I say that just in the sense that like a lot of people are that way, and they hoard wealth, and there is a difference in disparity in the 1% versus the latter. And it's good to just maintain that boundary of like knowing that as a person you can really do whatever you want to. You can do, say, think, and act however you like to, as long as it doesn't hurt another person. As long as it's not, as long as it's not that, just please don't harm other people, and that's like a bare minimum thing. But it goes over the heads of a lot of people too, even with thoughts and perceptions. Even the way that people are. Say you're at a party, okay, and you know you don't identify with the people at the party, and you don't know why you're invited, and you're just sitting around, you have a cup of water, and here are all these people that are just standing in groups talking to each other, talking about you. It seems, you know, what sets you apart from other people in that way is the fact that you know others do that, you know, in a sense. And I guess that's a direct observation. And it actually goes hand in hand with the story that I was telling before earlier today. That you know, it's not always going to be the popular thing to be a good person, and it's not always going to be the popular thing to like have the correct sensibility or to even I guess you could say be well informed. You know, certain things go over the heads of people. Certain things are opinionated. You know, in the way um, sometimes that they shouldn't be. Like it's not an opinion not to like want to hurt other people, but I guess it is. I don't know. Or even say like certain things about other people, like, oh, this person's ugly, or this person's this way. You know, I wouldn't think to say that because it's just bare minimum not to for me. It's like it's one of those things just not to make a comment about another person's I don't know, the way that they look. I guess it's bare minimum not to. But in a lot of ways, that's how people exercise, you know, or uh, enlist their own personal opinions, or even like, oh, I don't like this. Say you're, say someone's dressed the wrong way, or they just like look kind of off-putting. I don't like the way you're dressed. Well, is it really your place to say, you know? Is it really your place to like even have an opinion about the way that another person is wearing clothes or the way that another person looks? It's just it doesn't work that way. But a lot of things, even with art, art and what's made, people have the same sort of thing. And that is the difference, I think, is that you know, some people have that understanding, other people don't, and you know, from the from that point of view, is that you know, other some are outsiders, others are insiders. People are trendsetters. Some people have original ideas, some people don't, and it's a part of that thinking just to respect other people um, as a precursor to all of it. But being the type of person that I am, and excuse me for that, but being the type of person that I am, I ran into like a lot of people throughout my time that you know may not have the same perception. Stupid trombone, come on. Gosh darn it, this flipping trombone keeps killing me. I keep getting killed dead by a trombone note. But you know, certain people have that perception of just like not caring what other people have to say, not caring about how other people feel, you know, not being one of those people who is even relatively like fun to be around at all. You think just because you have things, just because you are what you are, or your career, or something like that, you think that you know you don't have to respect other people or even give them basic common decency. And that's all I ever ask for. You know, all I ever ask for is basic common decency and a little bit of respect. You don't have to respect me fully if you don't know me, you know. But I've ran into that sort of thing. Sorry about that. Um, had to greet someone. But yeah, if you look at it that way, there's really more to life than just like sitting and being a consumer, sitting and being in someone, sitting and being someone who only perceives and has an opinion rather than having and enlisting some sort of input or creative prospect. Sorry about that. Just waiting for the sound to come back on. Hold on. Doesn't seem to want to work. Could retry. And begin. There we go. That's better. Anyway, sorry, I had some things to deal with in the background. But back to the prior topic is that it really a person's voice, I think, is not even defined by the way that other people speak or the way that other people perceive things. It's what they choose to say. And in that perception, you have to sort of like mitigate any factor of like personal feelings about it, because not only there may be a purpose to what they're doing or what they're saying, but it's sort of in that way to just be within that perception, and you can add to it too. That's part of what communication is about, is to add and have an important feeling or thought about the way that another person is feeling, instead of being just a consumer or someone who just perceives something and reacts to it. And in music, art, time, it's all that way. And I really want to get through this MC Escher level because I've been stuck on it. So I'm gonna do that right now. I think I'm gonna beat it right now. But you just have to take a brief moment to really look at things truly and see them for what they are, because if you don't, you end up losing track of something that would otherwise be important sometimes. And I for one do not want to do that sort of thing. I don't want to lose track of what's important. I don't want to like lose my goals and things that I've worked for merely for the sake of looking a certain way or having other people feel some sort of way about me, because I don't do things for attention, and that may be part of it, but it's also personal moral systems even. I got stuck beneath the platform. Personal morals and personal moral implication, and there really isn't much more to it other than that. So I don't know. I just like to get off that topic now, but it's easier to say things and think before you say things rather than just having to double back on what you say and then having other people be offended by it, or it not being something that other people want to hear or perceive either. You don't want a random guy. You don't want a random person with too many opinions that aren't good. And that's how it can be, especially on the internet. Is like, someone will just be on the bottom of the comment section and have the worst opinion ever. This guy stinks. This guy sucks. No, he doesn't. This guy Guy eats tortillas off the ground. I think I would eat a tortilla off the ground, I'm not gonna lie. But still, it's just like, it's like the things people say, you know, they don't think about it often, you know, especially on the internet. You know, if it's a comment, it's not auto-generated. Someone sat there and typed that, you know? Unless it's AI. That's how AI is going now. Is that, you know, you never know if someone typed it or if it's like just AI. But I for one think AI is useless. I'm sorry if it's not involved in, you know, medical research, if it's not, you know, working on receptors for, you know, repairing limbs and neurology, you know, neurological receptors to interpret brain signals and stuff like that, then it's useless to me. I don't care about what an AI has to write. I don't care about the ChatGPT version of the this and that, you know, about it. Because that is how it is, you know. Even people now attempt to pass off like writing and jokes like that off as, you know, something they wrote or something they did, and then it's just AI, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me at all. If a person didn't say it, it's most likely not going to be as good as, you know, what a computer can generate. Because a computer is a tool. A computer is a tool. So at the end of the day, it's a tool that you use for, you know, either interconnectivity, social prospect, you know, work, money, advertising, writing. Everything is on the internet these days. But essentially, your computer is not your life, it is your tool. It's your tool to use in the world, and there's still that portion of, like, thinking where you have to walk out and it's like, it's real life, you know? You're not in a VR headset, it's real life. And, you know, that could be the difference. That's the difference in thinking. Even with some people, you know, over the age of 30, you know, and if I have to tell you that, you know, you probably miss a boat on some stuff, but I'm glad I could tell you. Because it matters, and you should cherish the people around you, and you should value the people around you for who they are, because they're not, you know, they're not only that. And I can't stress that enough. Can't stress it enough just to value the people around you, because I don't have many people. I don't. I do, I don't know. Choose to be a nice person about it, even if I'm lonely, right? So tired of this trombone, you have no idea. Stupid trombone, man. I think that's so funny. But you get what I'm saying in that aspect. Is that, you know, if you lose track of what's important, you end up losing track of also, like, who you truly value and what you truly value. I like the background here of the three orbs. Are they gumdrops? Are they candies? I don't know. 3 orbs. Within the hands. It's kind of cool. Gosh darn it. I was having an opinion on the art and I died. But yeah. I don't know. But I do have another story to tell. I started this off by attempting to tell a story, but I was interrupted halfway through. about a concert that I went to and the difference between like concerts and house shows and stuff like that. But I actually do have another one. And I don't like to preface things like no story is ever that great. Like when you started off by saying like this one time, but I say it all the time because I think it's just like such a funny thing. I go through so much stuff on the day to day that you know it's the easiest way to just like preface something. So this one time, right? One time I was in my car, okay, and I was doing Uber delivery, and the way that Uber delivery works is like sometimes they'll give you good tips, other times they won't give you good tips and stuff like that. But excuse me. Sometimes they'll give you good tips, other times they won't, and it's like hit or miss. And it's my second job at the time, and I'm surviving off of it. And I'm like, I have to pay this bill. It's gonna be $300, and I have to drive around the city and make enough money to pay this bill. It's going to be $300 off of the tips that I make from my second job because my job won't pay me within the 2-week period for what I need to pay. So, and that was, one of those things that stresses me out that I, was living that way. And still I am, by the way. I'm still, everyone has to work. But, so I was trying to make enough money to pay this bill, which is essentially my car insurance. But, so I'm out and about. I'm trying to pay my car insurance, and I'm driving around, and I'm in the city, and I live near Minneapolis and St. Paul, so it's a nice city. Don't get me wrong. I love everything about it. It's very nice, and the weather is nice. Four seasons, and I love the winter and snow. So it's one of those things to me. But I'm in Minneapolis, and I'm driving around in my car, and I get this order for this restaurant, and it's a takeout order for a Indian restaurant, like an actual Indian restaurant from India, and the food is like the order is like like curry noodles and like dal or something like that. And I've eaten here before just because when you do DoorDash and Uber and other delivery apps, one of the perks of like actually working at those kinds of places is that you're able to get to know the area and the restaurants and everything, and it's like a perk to it is that like you actually get to like have a feeling about other restaurants and get to know things and be out and about and like other people and stuff like that. It's a good thing to do just for anyone who doesn't go out a lot too and wants to have like say like a second job where you can get out, and even if you don't have friends, you get to learn new places and see different stuff and stuff like that, like different public occurrences and different demographics. And I'm that way where I there isn't a lot of ways that I am other than like antisocial sometimes. So I would go out and do my deliveries for Uber, and I would try to basically essentially like list restaurants and stuff like that where I could go to, or maybe like take a date, or if I ever eventually actually get a friend, take them to someplace cool, and I would have them like listed, like here's where I like to go, here's what the kind of food it was, and it was like the name of the restaurant, the review I gave of like the venue, and what kind of food it was, because it's multicultural, it's a multicultural city. I'd say there isn't a lot of propensity for like violence or even you say like bigotry in any way. But I went to go get this order at this Indian restaurant, and I sat in the Indian restaurant for a bit beforehand. And the guy who came out to hand me food was actually the owner of the restaurant, and he talked to me for a brief moment. And I sat there thinking, this is like a really nice venue. I'm gonna come back here. The food smells good. I like everything about it. So maybe I'll come back and get some like roti or something, because I like roti. Roti's good. It's like this bread, form of bread. Roti is, but sorry about that. I keep getting interrupted. But I was at this restaurant. Okay, to preface, everything beforehand. Um, I'm standing there, and I want roti from the restaurant, which is kind of bread. So I like roti. And so I talked with the owner of it, and he's like, "Yeah, no, this and that. We opened this year or last year, and it's been good." And as I'm talking to him, out of the corner of my eye, there's a window, and I see this guy breaking into my car. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this guy breaking into my car and just like smashing the window, right? And I don't even have anything like valuable in my car. I don't have a gun. I don't, I don't keep electronics or my laptop or my phone in it. But this guy was breaking into my car out of the corner of my eye, and I think he noticed me and like ran off. But the thing about it is that I didn't, in that situation, I didn't even call the police about it because I had other things to do. It would create issues. It would make me, I don't know, it would just like it would give more issue to my life. And I didn't even have anything in my car, so like the person breaking into my car, really couldn't steal anything. It wasn't worth it to like even call the police on them, so I just kind of let it slide. And with that sort of thing, it just makes me feel like, if I did, it would ruin that person's life. So I'm kind of glad that I didn't, but also, why would someone try to steal from me that way? I was on a whole Uber delivery, I was on Uber delivery. I'm clearly, I'm working 2 jobs, and I don't want to like ruin another person's life over something like that. And that's how it can be, where people make choices and they act upon them, and whatever the outcome may be, that'll be the outcome forever. And I don't like that portion of thinking at all. But I don't know. It kind of as off-putting as that seems to have your car broken into, and then you just like do nothing about it while you're on a Uber delivery. You know, it really is the same sort of reasoning about, you know, relatively anything. People can do wrong to you. People can treat you any type of way that they'd like to. But until, you know, if you give it power over you, if you give anything power over you, it's completely different. And that's why I'm, you know, in any propensity, I'm never aggressive either. You see, like, guys, dudes get aggressive. I'm not even gonna lie, dudes have like a tendency, and I'm a man myself, but men have a tendency to get hyper aggressive and territorial as if they're, you know, animals over anything. You can't. I don't want you to like my character that I play in Street Fighter. You're not allowed to like the same restaurant as me. Stuff like that. You know. And it's funny. It's funny, but it's also, I get it because I connect internally with certain things. Maybe for a different reason. I wouldn't want another man. I wouldn't want another man or another woman, say, wearing my clothes. Like, say I lost my shirt, or I had some stuff stolen from me, and someone was wearing my shirt or my cardigan or my clothes or something like that. I would not want that whatsoever, because it would make me just feel kind of disgusted and violated, you know? In the same way, like, getting your car broken into has you feeling violated, but in that way, I didn't really have anything in it, so I wasn't even that mad. I was just like, you know, I hope that person, you know, I wasn't even that mad that I was stolen from, because all it took was like 20 bucks that was in my center console. So I just decided not even to like do anything about it. And that's how it can be in life, you know? And certain people are a bit too much. That's why you see those videos of like Karens. You know, Karens go the extra mile with that sort of thing, where it's like, I'm calling your manager, I'm gonna get you fired for some arbitrary reasoning, and I'm just really not that type of person at all. I'm very hands off. Please don't bother me with any extra issues, and it's a good way to be in the world, especially in 2025, because it's more respectful. I'd say it's more respectful. It accommodates larger perception of everything, and you know, you can really start to hate life if you care too much about negative things, if you give it too much power. And I'm really not that type of person. I like the design of this level. It's a spinning watchtower with a cloud background, like a watercolor cloud background. But yeah, other things have happened to me while I'm doing Uber too. This one time I picked up this guy. Oh god, it got scary very quickly. This one time I picked up this guy, right, and he wouldn't get out of my car. He was displaced, I'll say. He was displaced in some way, but he was a little crazy. And being displaced and crazy will have you thinking and act in certain ways, and you know, I just don't want to make a comment on that, because you know, I've gone through suffering and been that way too. But this one guy I picked up into my car, he wouldn't get out of my car, so I had to like do air kung fu to him. And if you know what air kung fu is basically, you know, that in the way that like characters in shows, they have to like, every time they like punch, like, and it nearly misses someone's face, or say like a jet takes off, or it's a transformer or something, and you know, it's demonstrating how powerful it is. So like wind will brush the edge of, like, say a face or like someone else, and it's like, wow, this guy is powerful, you know. It's a sensibility. So the guy I picked up, he wouldn't get out of my car, and I was like in the middle of another state because I wasn't in the state that I live in, and I was basically I don't know. For a time, I was doing a bit of like um, social outreach or work, I guess centered around that, and picked up this guy, and you know, he pulls out something he's not supposed to have in my car, and I wasn't okay with it whatsoever, and he didn't tell me about it before getting in, and it's like 10 minutes into the ride that I'm giving him, he just pulls it out, and I'm like, dude, what is that? And this is something that, what, I think this is like a huge issue in the US right now, but I'm like, dude, what is that? You know, and he sits there, he's like, what? And I'm like, dude, you're gonna have to get out of my car now. So I'm like, can I take you somewhere? Where's the nearest place that I can drop you off? Because as soon as something like that happens, it's like you make a decision, and it should be the right one. Just kick him out of your car. So I I don't know. So like the guy would get out of my car. He's like, "No, dude, you said you were gonna give me a ride. You said this and that." And for me, I'm like, well, the situation changes as soon as something like that happens. So I'm sitting there arguing with him, and I don't want to argue with him. He's a little older than me. He's like a 40-year-old dude. Because I was just doing a solid, man. I was trying to. I just said, I'll give you a fist bump and a ride wherever you want to go, and that's what it was supposed to be. And it turned into this. It turned into like an argument, which I always try to avoid. I'm never argumentative. I'm never aggressive. But what was interesting about it is that the whole thing, it escalated so far because he had like, I don't know, like a backpack and like in his pocket. And I don't know what was in his pockets and things like that. He might have had a weapon or something. And he started getting aggressive with me. So what I did was like, I pulled out the air kung fu, the air Shaolin, the air Wing Chun on him. And essentially, I just started like punching the air in front of him. I didn't hit him. I did not punch him. I didn't, punch anybody. I've never wanted to hurt anybody ever in my life. But, what it was that it was like a character even that would, you as soon as your fist hits the air in front of the person's face, it like, it creates a little bit of wind. Like a gust of wind of my power level from Hunter x Hunter or something. And this is my reasoning with it, is that like I didn't, I never touched the guy. I didn't punch him. I didn't, I wouldn't assault like a random person just for something like that. But I wanted to make sure that the guy like knew that I wasn't messing around. So, and he wouldn't get out of my car. So, I don't know. And then afterwards, it actually turned into something else. This was an actual situation that happened to me that deterred somebody from, being around me that I didn't want to be around me. It most likely deterred the person, and you know, um, essentially made them get out of my car. Actually, like, oh, his power level is too high. I went Super Saiyajin on him, and I don't know, that's never happened to me before, where someone will just like refuse to get out of my car, and I don't know. I don't know if you wanted to like steal it from me or I don't know. People can be very dangerous. That's it. Always give people the benefit of the doubt. And there's a lot of love in the world, a lot of good in the world, but you know, gosh darn it. Gosh darn it. See the good in the world aside from the bad, you know, in that way. But it's always good to be mindful too of the dangers of society, because someone can just choose. If someone chose to, they could, you know, and people know what they're doing at the end of the day, is what I like to say. But yeah. So what ended up happening was is that the guy was in my car, and then I pulled over to a gas station and he still wouldn't get out of the car, and I'm like, dude, get out of my car. And you know, he stops for a brief moment. He's like, no, I'm not gonna get out of your car. You said you'd bring me somewhere, blah blah blah. And he's, you know, very obviously not in his right mind. He's a little crazy to begin with, so I don't know. I don't even know. The air kung fu thing turned into a whole other thing too. I thought that was interesting, but that happens in TV shows and like in anime too, where you know the swordsman, say you run into like the wrong samurai, right? The samurai will just cock his sword just a little bit, or Crux's sword, sorry, excuse me. But Crux's sword, and you know, a slice will be made, and you never even saw that the swordsman even opened his sword, you know, or even unsheathed his sword. And it'll just be, you know, like one single slice, and it was like, the guy got completely cut in half there, just. And that's what I like to think about it as, but it's also like severely dangerous. Don't, you know, strange, unless you're one of those people like me who knows how to deal with situations like that, don't ever. Actually, it might be a good thing to promote, you know, the aspects of like the good of humanity. So if you want to go and pick some random people up in your car, go ahead, but just be wary of the way that people can be. You want to do a good deed, you want to, you know, be helpful to the planet Earth, then go ahead, but don't be vulnerable there though, because I'm not vulnerable. I have very good people skills and communication, and I'm also a very strong guy too. So I'm not really afraid of anyone unless they have like some sort of weapon, because you're not gonna punch through a bullet. Here's the thing, you can know as many martial arts, you can know as many sword skills, anything, but you're not about to fight a person with a gun, because the person with a gun will just shoot you. A person with a gun will just shoot you. They won't even, it won't even matter, and it'll be the saddest thing ever. Which is like part of my reasoning too, is that it can be very dangerous, and I don't like guns at all. At all. For people, I mean, even as a man living in America in 2025, I believe that to be one of those things that is a difference in opinion about those sorts of things. Because and sorry, I had to pick something up because I dropped it. But I do not like guns at all. I believe there's no use for them. Yeah, but that's a very political statement in this day and age, and I'm 26, so I have the research to back it up. I just don't want to make the entirety of this about that though. But yeah, if I think about it, you know, you can be, you know, Super Saiyan. You could be Super Saiyajin. You could be Sasuke Uchiha or Kakashi Sensei, but you still get shot. That's just something I would like to avoid. I'm serious. And I talk in like anime terms, but I mean I don't know. He can be God himself, and someone would still try to shoot you. This day and age, I guess. But God, him or herself. Sorry, itself. I don't know. There's no. That's a gender neutral thing. At least in my understanding of religion. But oh my gosh, I have something on my hands. Hold on. But yeah, I don't know. And it can be a different way of being, different sensibility with those sorts of things. It goes to show like experience too with like other people, because you know from all walks of life, I've spoken to businessmen, and you know people will do that sort of thing. So, and the difference being not much. There isn't that much of a difference other than education, and not even, you know, there aren't a lot of people that value education either, or the way that things are said, or the way that things are perceived. Because, you know, you'll have a friend even. You'll have someone who would just like attempt to make you look bad in public for no reason whatsoever other than because it's funny or, you know, childish reasoning. But that's it. It can be the same way with that sort of thing, at least I think. Where okay. Alright. But this is I have to lock in here. But never mind. Hold on. I have to retry. But with this sort of thing, you know, you can have a friend that will, you know, not have your right intentions in mind, and also talk the way that they do, so that, you know, you end up looking worse to other people. And first impressions are essentially the most important thing, even with other people out in public, you know, because other people aren't going to know who you are. They're not going to, you know, understand who you are at all. So when you have, like, say someone who's damaging in that certain way, you know, it can be a hindrance. It can be one of those things you don't want to happen, where it is damaging and you have to double back on their reasoning and say, you know, I'm sorry for the way that my friend acted, or even embarrassed at what they said about you, you know? And I try to avoid those things, so I don't know. I always say nice things about other people. It will never be something negative. This is a good rule of thumb to have for anybody. Anyone in the world, any young person or even old. Because I've seen old people do it too. Where, you know, someone's over the age of 50 and still, you know, very childish about the way that they feel. And that just goes to show you, because if you hand, say if you hand an old person a computer, are they gonna know how to use it? If you hand like someone over the age of 50 a computer, are they gonna know how to use it? Because I can open command prompt and I can use Linux basically, you know, can program the computer to be different than what it is through its operating system. But you know, that doesn't defeat the fact that, like, you know, I'm in the current position that I am, or I am who I am. But if you hand an old person a computer, unless they've worked in computers for a long time, they're not gonna understand how to open command prompt and, you know, do anything within it. They're gonna check their email and maybe play like solitaire or something. And I like solitaire. Don't get me wrong, that's like my favorite game. Solitaire, I'd say, is my favorite game of all time. But it's just because I've been playing it for a while. Then that's been my thing since I've been very little. But I guess that is observation. And in this day and age, you know, information age, everything is online. Everything is the computer. Everything is, you know, being phased out, and even currency, you know, it's not just paper money anymore. It's not just paper money and coins. It's, you know, cryptocurrency and investment expenditures, and here's how you do this and that. And I really don't identify with people who sit around and do nothing with vast amounts of currency. I really don't. I don't like that sort of thing. It just it impedes on the moral balance of it all, moral implicity, and you know, a lot of that has to do with everything else. I'd say you should be doing more. If you have more, you should be doing more for other people. And that's how these sorts of things work. It's a balance. It's a balance with life, actually. And that's why outwardly I try to be a nice person. You know, when I'm doing Uber and DoorDash, or when I was doing Uber and DoorDash, I would keep water bottles and like gloves, and because it would get cold in the winter time, and I would be doing it in the winter. But I would keep water bottles, gloves, you know, socks, even jackets in my car just to give away, because I had a bit of extra income and I could go to the thrift store and buy these things that it really didn't cost me a lot, you know, to do a little bit more and help people. But you get into those groups of people who they have so much where they just stop caring about the way that other people feel because they don't have to worry about it. And you know, that in and of itself is kind of just wrong. It's wholeheartedly wrong. That, and you know, if you just that makes me kind of want to like do my research on you, you know. Kind of makes me want to, you know, personally look at it and just have a personal statement on it, because it's not only one of those things where not only I feel disrespected, but maybe the world does, you know. Maybe the world doesn't need people who are that way. And I guess that could be the observation even. I don't know. It's kind of funny to say the observation. There's a watchtower in the background, but yeah, the world has more room for love and compassion and people who, you know, take the time to actually do something for other people rather than, you know, act like they do. Or, you know, the world has more room for people who actually care rather than, you know, people who say they do and then speak of ill will and behind closed doors, not the same person at all. Because a lot of that it is like that as well. Like having a friend that talks behind your back after being nice to you, but essentially it's a moral implicit observation of currency too. So a person doesn't have to be nice, they don't have to act any sort of way, but it would be nice if there was more room for some good in the world, you know? And I agree with that. Especially if those people with the abundance of currency, or even the abundance of, you know, just like privilege, especially if they aren't, you know, the smartest people either. Because even that truly exists too, where, you know, someone can be in that position and not be even the brightest, not even the sharpest tool in the shed. So that is there too, that exists too. And I've seen it. I mean, other people can see it as well, but I don't know. In this day and age, it's you shouldn't be so judgmental about that kind of stuff either. Maybe that is what it's about, is just being accepting and having compassion. Because if, you know, if I truly did say what I wholeheartedly think about everything and everyone, you know, Would it be a mean statement? Most likely not, but it might get on a few people's nerves. I'm not gonna lie. Hold on, the controller is doing something weird right now. The jump button doesn't want to work. Hold on here. I'm gonna have to change the controls here. The jump button doesn't want to work. I wonder how I'm gonna do this here. I guess this works. Okay. I guess that works. I had to change it to the right trigger because it didn't want to work for some reason, but yeah, people can be that way, where they don't have a care in the world because of what they have, or they don't have a care in the world because they're not mindful enough, and that can just be an outward observation or just the nature of the way that people can be, but yeah, you know what I mean, man. And for me, I like honest interaction. I really do. I value things that oftentimes, you know, other people can't see, or even the little things about people that are important. Like if your friend, you know, or say if someone is around you and they're a little bit insecure, or even they're a little bit I don't know. People can be different. It can be a good thing and a bad thing to notice those sorts of ways of being. Yeah, I want to get done with this dragon boss. So I'm gonna lock in, but I guess that's an internal outward observation to take. A lot of things do happen between people that, you know, in real life, you know, are much different than, say, like an interaction on the internet, or in real life an interaction through, you know, speaking is different than, say, if it's on camera, or, you know, someone else is around, you know, in just in personal occurrence, I guess you could say. It's gonna be different regardless, even if it's, you know, gonna be different regardless. And you have to see it as an individual. You want to, you know, maintain that, I guess, or don't, or, you know, or don't. At least for me, I enjoy this sort of thing. I enjoy making a joke. I enjoy making a joke, and I like to be funny, and here I am, and I like this, and I like that. Oh my god, that's so funny. Oh my flipping god, that's so funny. But you know, I'm really not even like that, though. Here's my thing, though. here's my thing though. I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna say something right now, okay? And I hope you're listening, okay? Gosh darn it, I gotta stop. I gotta stop doing that. But here, I actually am gonna say something. So when I'm dating somebody, and I've ran into this before, when I'm dating someone or in a relationship, you know, my biggest pet peeve is when I've gone out to dinner before, gone out to lunch. My biggest pet peeve is when my significant other will look at someone else while we're on a date. Even brief eye contact, like, you know, and I'm sure the same thing goes for, say, like, you know, a woman interested in me, but I'm a man, you know. I'm a, I'm a man, and, you know, if my date, like, briefly makes eye contact with a guy, and the guy is relatively attractive, and we're at dinner, are you just looking at the other guy the entire time? Is that what it is? How does that work? And that's happened to me before, you know. It's not like the other person went to, like the other person would, like, stop dating me completely in the situation. But, you know, I was out to dinner, and the date that I was with just wouldn't stop looking at the guy at the table, at the other guy at the table across from us. And I'm like, okay, well, are you on a date with me, or are you on a date with the guy across the table, you know? And so this bugged me. This reasoning actually bugged me so much that when I'm in a relationship, actually, or if, like, I'm, you know, with somebody, or I'm dating somebody, or we're going on a date, I won't even look at, say, like, another woman. I won't even look at another woman. I'll just, like, stare at the ground. I'll just, like, look at the ground. I'll start, like, counting rocks and stuff. Like, how many rocks are on the ground right now? You know, even if someone, like, looks at me, like, come on, honey, we have to get across the street so we can go to dinner. And there's like a beautiful, there's like some very pretty woman next to whoever I'm dating. I'll stare at the ground. I won't even look in that direction. Does that make me weird at all? I don't think so. I don't think that's weird or even strange or in any way. But other people might be different. Other people might not feel that way, you know? That's why you get, like, the opinion. That's why you do things like on the internet, so you can get an opinion. Might need a second opinion about that. I mean, I just don't know. Doctor, I need a second opinion. Yes, what is it? Is it okay for me to stare at the ground instead of other people? That really isn't a question for me. I'm in orthopedics. I just... Oh my god, that's funny. But yeah, you get what I'm saying. You understand what I'm saying. I just don't know. And I don't really talk to very many people. I haven't gone on a date in a while, but that's how I am. That is how I am. So, you know, do with that information what you will, but, you know, I've counted my fair share of sediment. I know how many rocks are on the ground and ants. I love accents. I think that's so funny. That is so funny, actually. So flippin' funny. Those accents. I can do actually different accents too. Do you want to hear? You want to hear some of the other accents I can do? That one's like weird Southern guy, I guess. But I can do like Hector. Some guy named some guy named some Mexicano man named Rapido. I don't even know if that's a name. Rapido means fast, but it's kind of sort of high pitched and a little weird. Hey man. You know what? I don't think accents are really like that. Really don't think it's like racially centered. And also, I'm Hispanic too, so it's completely fine. But hey, man, me and the boys were going out here, man. I took my significant other on a date, man, and I don't even look at other people, man. I just stare at the ground. I stare at the miro entonces el mundo. Miro entonces el mundo. A veces, caputo. Comprende. Y era mucho. Y muchas personas en el mundo. And many people in the world is what that means. But I don't know. I like those kind of things. That for a while that was, for a brief segment of that didn't even make sense, but it's completely fine. Sometimes Spanish can be that way. Just thought it was funny. If you want to learn a quick little lesson in Spanish, it's la mente is mind, the mind. Pensamientos is thoughts. So it's interesting. And piensa actually means think, or pensar means to think. But there is different verb forms in the Spanish language. But so vivo en el mundo, vivo en mi mente, y personas en el mundo means people in the world. So a lot of stuff people do. I have to beat this dragon. I really do. I have to beat it. I must. I must beat this dragon. I feel like Game of Thrones. That's my biggest thing in Game of Thrones. Like, dragons did absolutely nothing until the end. Until the end of Game of Thrones, the dragons were completely useless and just like a little CGI. But yeah, I don't know. I like TV too, so streaming is not TV, but it's more popular than daytime television. So you think there's like a lot of that appeal to it too. Vivo en mi mente y mi corazón. I live in my mind and my heart. Hey man, me and the boys were looking for something. I think it was love and compassion. Have you seen it? I cannot find any love and compassion around here. That's how I feel like every time someone is making me mad. That's how I feel every time I get sad, actually. Where is the love and compassion? I'm exactly like that. I really need to beat this, I'm sorry. I'm stuck on this level. It's so hard for no reason. So hard for no reason, gosh darn it. Here's a real high-class battle. It's on. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Can be weird, can be good, can be bad. You know, life is hard. It's not supposed. You're not supposed to be happy 100% of the time. I guess you could say. But that sort of thing makes me happy for sure.